So now we shall have a look at how we can use PHP code in order to insert the values into our table. We already have values of first name, last name, the type of the shirt and the size of the shirt. So now we have to insert these values into our table, which is called as purchase info, which is already present in the database called as shopping. So how do we do that? So first of all, let us generate the query that is required for us to insert the value. So suppose we know that it's a insert query. So what we're going to do is we're going to generate that query. Okay, so this is the query. So we can type in there, but I'm going to use the automatically generated one. So this is the query, right? So we are supposed to insert into purchase info. What are the attributes? The attributes are purchase ID, first name, last name, shirt type, and shirt size. So for these attributes, we are going to give the values, right? So value 1, as I showed you in the last part, it is null for purchase ID because it is an auto increment. So the second value, third value, fourth value, and fifth value is what we are supposed to give. Okay. So we already have these values in $_post, right? For example, what I will do now is I will create a variable or a simple variable. So just call it as fn for first name, and this will actually store the value of the first name. Okay, it's not necessary to do this because you can directly make use of $_post, but for simplicity I'm showing this. $last name will keep track of whatever the value we have got for last name, and similarly dollar select one, right? So I believe it is a type, so I'll give it as $type. So this will actually store our type, and dollar, I'll just write that sz for size, and this will store my value from the HTML page regarding size. So now these variable values should be used here in the query, right? So first one is value 2. What is value 2? Value 2 is first name. So where is that value stored? The value is stored in a variable called as $fn. Okay, but we are supposed to give it in double quote, in a single quote. Why? Because it's a varchar, right? So what we'll do is use single quote here, and inside that I'm going to write $fn. Okay, similarly, what is the third value? Third value is last name, correct? What is the fourth value? Fourth value is once again a varchar, and it is type, right? So dollar should be put, so $type, and the last one is dollar um, size, which is sz. Okay, now remember I have used codes for all the variables, all the four variables, because all four are varchar. Now suppose if size was not a varchar, suppose size like we define size in terms of 30, 35, 38 or something like that, and I could have directly specified it like this, but because it's a varchar I need to include that in quotes. Okay, so we'll just type this out, and what I will do is I will echo this query just to check whether this is correct or not. Okay, and I will just remove this code for now because it's not required for us to print the value as it is. So I'll just print out this query and see what I'm getting, or what query is getting generated because of this statement. So let us now run this code. I'll go back to my original page. So I'll submit the data here. So maybe Rahul Khanna once again, it's already stored. So now I'm going to click buy now. Okay, so some error is there, of course, expected. So syntax error at 25. So what is the error? So insert into purchase info. So these are the values. So what is the value that we are supposed to give? Okay, so let us just do this. Okay, right. Okay, sorry. You need to enclose this entire thing in double quote because it's a string, query string we are generating. So I'm supposed to insert that. Okay, now see, this is what we are getting. Okay, so let me add a break here so that our query gets displayed in the next page. Okay, so as you can observe, we have generated this query from our PHP page. Okay, so it says insert into purchase info, correct? So these are the attributes and I'm getting these values. Okay, I'm getting these values. Now let me see whether this query gets correctly executed or not. So if this query gets correctly executed in the backend, then I know that the query string that we have generated is right. Okay, so if it doesn't, then we will know that it is wrong and we have to make some corrections. So let us run this out. So as you can observe, it has executed. Let me see whether the values has been inserted. Yes, see, the values has been inserted. So if I change the values, for example, I'll change this to summer now. Okay, and small by now. So now you can observe that again the query has changed, but this time with the new values that we have inserted. Correct. Now let me check whether it works or not. Yes, it is working, right? So we have got our new value inserted, right? But we don't want to do this copy paste again and again. We want our PHP code to execute this particular query on its own, and if it properly executes, then we may want to receive an message saying that the data has been inserted properly. Suppose if there is anything wrong or if the data does not get inserted, then we might want to receive a message from the system saying that your data was not properly inserted, and maybe then we might take some necessary action. Okay, so in order to do that, let me take a part of the code from our previous page. Okay, so let us just have this sample of a code. Just explain what it is, right? So first of all, we are supposed to, so now we have generated a query. So we are supposed to execute this query. Okay, we are supposed to execute this query on the connection that we have already created. So how do we execute this query? So in order to execute this query, we are going to use a statement called as this. Okay, we are going to use a statement called as query. Okay, so on the connection that we have already executed, we are executing the query. And what is it that what query we are executing? Whatever query we have generated so far. So it's given name as, okay, I'll just keep it as SQL only. Okay, you can give it as query. So whatever query has been generated, we are executing that. Okay, now I'll just turn this into SQL statement. Okay, or maybe better, I'll change this to statement, SQL statement. Okay, so this is SQL statement, and I'm just going to change this value here. So this is the SQL statement that I want to be executed. So we are going to use that on our connection. So if this query executes properly, or if this statement executes properly, then it will return true. Okay, so as a result, what I will do is I will simply display a alert box or alert message saying that data has been added successfully. So once the data gets added successfully, then I might redirect my redirect myself to some page. Okay, I'll just go back to that which page, purchase details page. So if one data gets added, I will go back to that same page in order to add another data. Now suppose if there is some error, okay, suppose if there is some error, then I might display that there is an error here. Okay? I might say that there is an error here, okay, and I will say I'll also display an error message saying that data adding is failed. and I will redirect myself to some other page. Okay, it may not be necessary. You might redirect yourself to the same page, purchase details, so that you can add data again. But this is just to show that you can redirect your cursor to from one page to another page depending upon your requirement. Like on success, you can redirect yourself to some other page. On failure, you might redirect to some other page. Okay, so in this case, I'm just redirecting to some error.php. So now let us see what will happen. So we have the data here coming from the HTML page. We have generated the SQL statement, and now we are executing that particular statement on the connection that we have previously established. So if everything is good, then we will get a message saying data is added successfully and we will be redirected to purchase details.php. Suppose if there is a failure of adding the data, then we will be redirected to error.php. Okay, so let me see whether I have got error.php or not. Otherwise, I might get some blank page here. So there is an error.php. So already a page has been created. So let us now run our code and see whether data gets inserted successfully or not. Okay, so I've already added two details. Now I will add a third one. Okay, but this time I'm not going to copy paste the query. I am hoping that the PHP page is going to execute the query for me. So let me add now detail Abhishek. So half sleeves, large, rhino. So as you can see here, it is displaying the message data added successfully. Okay, now if I click on OK, so it should be redirecting me to purchase details.php. I think I have given the name of the page wrong. So it is purchase details.html. Sorry, it is purchase details.html. Right? So it is purchase details.html. So let me go back to the page now. Okay, so it is purchase details.html. Now let us see whether Abhishek Bachchan has been inserted or not. So browse. As you can see, data has been inserted. Okay, so like this, let us try once again. This time we'll insert with Roshan. Ritik Roshan obviously uses a sleeveless shirt. Right, so it says data added successfully. Now as you can observe, we are coming back to the same page. Right, so we're coming back to the same page. Okay, one more I will add. So he uses a full half sleeves, small size. See, data added successfully, and we are coming back to the same page. Right, so let us check whether these data has already been inserted. See, as you can observe, data is getting inserted into our database. So this is how you can use your PHP code in order to insert the values into the database. Now the same thing can be done in order to delete or update the information. Okay, so what is required for us to delete? What is required for us to update? Of course, we need some condition. Okay, so based on the condition, the query would actually change. So for example, here, instead of insert, now I may have to, suppose if my aim is to perform an update. Okay, so the query would be update. So for example, here, if I click on update, I will get a query. Right, so instead of insert, all I need to do is I need to run the update query, but we also need a condition based on which we are supposed to update. Okay, suppose if I want to delete the content. Okay, then instead of SQL statement is equal to insert or delete, I may have to run the delete query, but of course that should be done based on some conditions. Okay? That should be done based on some condition, right? So like this, we are supposed to change our query and execute our query by making use of $connection arrow query, okay, with the SQL statement. So in the next video, we will see how we can use the same code in order to update or perform a delete on our database.